Oh my.
Hello and welcome to this edition of BYOB. Bring your own book. I am author Nola Nash.
I brought my own book, by the way.
Wearing. Yeah, see, I'm so glad you
Focus.
did. This is Laura Kemp.
Look at that. See, we brought our own books.
And this
You
is
brought
For
your own
instructions.
we brought boys.
We brought
Sorry,
boys.
continue.
Brought
You were
boys.
saying?
Books
Come on,
and
didn't mean to interrupt.
boys. But no booze this time. Booze is over there at the bar across the wharf.
That's a shame.
That's after
Got the
show,
Dockporters with us today.
We do have
Exactly.
the Dockporters. The
You
Dockporters
obviously did not do your homework. Just kidding.
Otherwise known as Dave
Failing
and
his-
Jim.
Dave and
Jim.
Jim. And
Says it right
we've
on the corner.
decided to do this at a different time than normal. I know that you guys are just getting used to our live shows, and we are appreciating you guys kind of hanging with us. So know that you can put your comments in this comment section since we are indeed live. Y'all, my hair. I'm sorry. Who knows what this is going to be like today. So go ahead and put those comments in for Dave and Jim, or for me and Laura, as we are going through this today. And we're going to talk to Dave and Jim. And we did this at a different time because, Dave, you are in the Philippines, correct?
That is true, as far as I know.
As far as he knows. It's
As far as I know, I'm in the
right.
Philippines.
best guess.
Yes,
He's still there.
Cebu City, Philippines. It's hot out and it's only 8 a.m. It's already probably 97.6 degrees.
Ugh.
Just guessing.
Well,
I
as
like
you may
it.
can hear, it's a little windy over here in Salem.
Yeah,
so
it gets a
hopefully
little.
it's not too bad.
Once in a
Yeah,
while, we're hearing
hopefully it's
sounds.
not too bad.
We'll
Just
tell
so
you
you
if it
know, these strange people behind me are strangers to me. They are tourists.
I know. I actually know them.
You know them?
No,
Do
yeah.
you know them?
So
Let's stop
how-
him and
what a-
tell
what a
him hello
weird
from
coincidence.
Dave. Dave
Elaborate
says he
plan.
knows you. I am, and I had to look it up so that, Google's a wonderful thing. Because Laura was asking me, I knew so people would ask, where are you? Because I am not where I normally am. So I am in Salem, Massachusetts. I've been here for a couple of days, hanging out with the wonderful witches of Salem. But Salem has a great maritime history that I was actually not aware of. There's a lot of pirates here. There's a lot of there's a major port for a very long time. So I'm at the Salem Maritime National Historic Site, and behind me is the Friendship of Salem. That is a replica of a 171-foot ship called the Friendship that was built in 1797. It was an East Indiaman. So it's under some renovation here. And there is the sail loft back behind me right here, this big black building. And if you look right there, way off in the distance, that is actually a custom house. And that custom house there on the first floor of that custom house is where Nathaniel Hawthorne worked when he wrote The Scarlet Letter and House of the Seven Gables.
Wow.
So she's in literary
Kind of
heaven.
bringing in
that
the
was
literary heaven, trying to add
Well-
some seafaringness here for the Dockporter, since
You
we are
really
talking
worked
about
it all in
island.
there in one
I did.
setting. I'm impressed. Yes.
I
The
did, and it
writing,
was
the
one of those
boats.
that I. Yeah, but I'm sitting in a really. Should I show them where I'm actually sitting,
Sure.
Laura?
She looks
So
like
this-
she's lounging comfortably.
back-
I'm
Backdrop.
lounging. My
She's
backdrop
backdrop
is
when I see
lovely.
it.
No, this is how we're actually doing this.
I love it. I love it.
Wow, your arm is going to
So,
fall off.
there's
that's
the
cool.
water.
Nice spot.
So
Yeah.
it looks great when we are on a wide.
It is
shot.
great.
So, it's fantastic. But I'm sorry, I'm actually totally winging this, and it's
Yeah.
It's very cool.
I'm gonna have gravel in
Very-
my butt for the next week and a half. So it's gonna be really weird going through airport security. The X-rays. What is that, Miss Nash? I don't know. That's what it is. So you guys, as a writing duo, I mean, this is. I know you guys know Laura, and it's the Mackinac Island connection, right?
Correct.
Absolutely. I was
So Laura,
never a
tell me
Dockporter,
how
but-
that worked.
I was
Which
doing a
part?
book signing. I was doing a book signing last year at the Mackinac, at the Island Bookstore, and I always ask Tamara, who runs the place, who are the next authors coming up, to see if I can chat with them. And she said the Dockporters, and I thought, oh, these guys sound interesting. So
How wrong you
I
were.
chatted with them after I was done and they were starting. So there was a whole Dockporter party going on up there, and I think we played frisbee in the park with one of the junior Dockporters.
Oh, yes.
What's his name?
That-
He was sweet. He just joined our family.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to.
Gus.
What is
Yeah.
that? Gus. Thank God. Woo. That
He
would've
just
been
played
bad if
frisbee
I-
with us. It was.
Yeah, he's
it's like a
cool.
big
He's
family.
basically like he's the son of some.
Archie.
Well, actually, they became
Buddy.
friends of ours.
Archie's friend.
Yeah, but his parents were just like tourists on the island, and the kid got intrigued with the Dockporter thing, and then I think his parents read the book, and they started realizing that the whole Dockporter thing was like a thing, and then they like the kid's like, I want to do it, and he's just what is he, about 7 or 8 years
He was
old?
little. He had a little shirt on.
He's still a helper we worked with back in the 80s. Kind of took him in as like an assistant. So this little kid has his own Dockporter bike, and he like rides along whenever they come to visit the island. Gus kind of rides along with Archie and like helps him carry luggage and helps him like. So he's kind of like a mascot.
Yeah.
He just got a bigger bike.
Well, he's growing.
I think and that's amazing because kids grow so fast. But he got a bigger bike. I think this year. I saw a picture of it. He's
gonna have to get a bigger bike.
Yeah, already.
Like a bigger boat.
Yeah,
like a bigger boat. That was a little
You're gonna
jog
need-
reference.
I did wonder if
Picked up
Gus
on.
had any parents when he was there. I remember our family was like, "Where are your parents? Where are your parents?"
Oh, that's the best thing. I think that's part of the reason they love that
Didn't seem to know
island
his
and the
parents
whole
were-
scene. They're just like, you go.
Yeah, they
Like,
just.
Imagine a place where you can take a vacation with your family and then just lose your family completely, and it would be fine. Like that's the coolest thing about Mackinac.
That's the thing about
Like,
Mackinac.
That would be a
You're
real
just
popular place
wild.
let them go. It'll be fine.
among
I'm sure
parents
it'll
of
just be-
teenagers.
He's just hanging out with a bunch of Dockporters. What could possibly go wrong?
nothing.
Famous last
Nothing.
words.
Yes, exactly.
You say
Anyway, so that's where we met. This is going to take a while to say anything about anything if every single story takes this long. But that's
It's okay.
That's okay.
We've got 20 minutes. We're good.
20 minutes.
Tell
we'll be able to
Tell
start
lengthy
talking
stories. You
fast.
can tell your
We're
life story. So when you guys started working together, the book started as a screenplay, right? And then you were transitioning
Correct.
to a novel.
Yeah.
Tell us how
I mean,
all of that kind of played out, because that's an interesting origin story, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, Jim and I were buddies on the island as Dockporters back in the 80s. I always felt like it was a really interesting world for a movie, like sort of an indie, like Wes Anderson style movie. And I worked in Los Angeles for 20 years as an editor, writer, producer, mostly for television. And everybody has a couple of movie projects, it's like you have to have, a couple ready. And that was a one for me. So I had developed it as a screenplay with my brother, Scott, who's my creative partner. And we were actually pretty close to getting it done. We went to the island a few times. We raised not all the money, but some of it. And it was kind of like taking on its own sort of life. And it was like, holy crap, this is going to happen. And then, things change. It's really hard to make a movie. Not that that's like a news flash, but between, coordinating the whole thing, it's just a hassle. And, just things, timing and other things got in the way. And then I ended up moving to the Philippines. So that made it even difficult. And I don't know, it just sat, I'll try to tell this part of the story quickly, but it basically was one of those projects that just got away. But I always felt, because I love the Dockporter world and love Mackinac just about more than anything, it's in my DNA because I spent all my summers there until I was like 23. And then during COVID, I was doing what everybody was doing, which is pulling out everything you've ever written and like, dusting it, shining it, and like just thinking about it, but not doing anything. And all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute, this should be a novel. Originally, I was thinking about it as an Audible. Like Audible only, because I was listening to all these books, all these Audible books, and I thought, and then it was, but I was like, I don't want to do this by myself, and I'd already worked through a lot of it, but it was, the story structure was all there because it was, I feel a pretty solid screenplay, and it had been developed for quite a while, and right about that time, I mean, randomly, no joke, randomly, I mean, I'm in the Philippines. I haven't talked to a lot of people in a while, and Jim reconnects with me on Facebook and says, what are you up to? Jim, pick it up from here. I'm just dominating this conversation, but you like step in now. And
Your
I'll
voice
correct
is so
everything you say. I know it. I can't stop.
No, yeah, it was really fluky. It was just after the whole COVID thing started.
It was during COVID.
During COVID, just a weird, like a science fiction-esque time. so I had this short story idea at home. And I was just kind of goofing with it. And I thought, I'm going to give Dave a call because I'm going to write this piece. And I want to talk to him about, just borrowing a couple of things from the screenplay.
Yeah, because the screenplay had been out amongst the Dockporter people, because I always just gave it out to people because I wanted feedback and stuff. So,
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. I have some of those.
That's the hounds.
No,
The book is hounds.
So
So you had read it, right, Jim? You had read the script at that point, obviously.
Well, yeah, you and I,
Yeah.
years ago, you and I spent tons of time on it with you.
Yeah.
And I loved it. But I was going to write the short story, and I figured I'd contact Dave. It's kind of weird because I woke up in the morning thinking I'm going to contact him. So I did, Facebook Messenger, and we started talking. And I didn't even mention it to him. I didn't even, share with Dave what my thoughts were about this particular short story. And he said, we've got time. I'm home. You're obviously home. Do you want to collaborate on? And I said, hell yeah, I'll collaborate on anything. And he said, let's novelize the rest of the script, because he had already begun novelizing it. And so I jumped at the opportunity because I needed to keep writing. And it turned out to be really cool. We worked it out well. And, yeah, even with the time difference, we made it happen. I think because we both know how to relent and how to, forgive and how to work.
That was a question. How do you collaborate? Because I'm reading the book and I don't see any difference. Like, I can't tell where one of you starts and the other one stops. Like, ever. It's like,
You're talking about in the book itself, or right now in this conversation?
Oh yeah, both. I guess. Right? You're like one. But yeah, how is your collaborative process?
Let me say this real. Yeah, let me say. I'll start this, Dave.
Yeah.
We all know about pansters and planners, right?
Yeah.
And I always considered myself kind of a panster, but then I met this really cool screenwriter director who lived in Cebu, and he changed my viewpoint. He really had an influence on me, and the way we work now. And I just said this to him. I mentioned this to him, I think the other night or the other day. It's kind of changed my way of thinking and writing. I was kind of entrenched in, the certain method, certain style, certain belief system. But Dave, my eyes have opened up. We're planners. It's the really cool collaboration, man. We plan it and make it happen, and it's freaking cool. I love it.
I mean, I can say from my background, having all of my career, I was am still a video director, producer, like collaborative person who worked in Hollywood for most of it. And it's just the way it's done. The process of putting anything out that has to be televised or whatever is much more, you're used to dealing with a fairly decent sized group of people. So you just have to have things organized. You can't keep it all in your head and just be, like, oh, don't worry. This doesn't work that way. So I'm so literally trained to be organized. And I'm not saying that I don't want to sound like I'm like the uncreative one, but I just have a way of working that I was also an editor and am an editor too. And, when you're editing, you really have to be organized. So I just think I thought it would be interesting, and maybe thought it would be, oh, cool. Hey, dog. Or just wanted to do something. They're everywhere. I've got one couple around.
Friends.
Really?
Friends on the dock. Sorry.
No. That's like, you're telling a boring story when they pan away to a dog. It's like, all right, wrap it up. Anyway, the idea
the dog just pooped, so it was like all of a sudden the dog became the
yes, that is
became the focus there for a minute.
So did I.
I mean, exactly. Me too. That's so weird. Literally during that story,
everybody poops around here. Okay.
That's the best thing about this camera angle. I'm actually wearing an adult diaper as we speak.
That was a big smell.
Yes. Anyway, the idea of using the production techniques to write a book was kind of a fun, interesting thing. And I think I just forced him into that because it was the way I wanted to work. And it was already planned that way. And I just thought, let's just do it that way. And I think that, has worked out. And I think it also was imperative with two people that you really needed to have it organized in a way. And I just treated the whole thing the same way I would treat a TV show,
Well,
which was much more,
he,
it was still
yeah.
wildly creative, I would hope, but also somewhat
He-
deadline driven. And
yeah.
Go
So
on.
years ago, he suggested, this is years ago, Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey. This is years ago. And then I think more recently, we were looking at Save the Cat, or at least I was. I think we both were at certain intervals. Save the Cat writes a novel. The bottom line is we did explore the power of creating beat sheets. This is his forte. So he used the word forced. I tell you what, I was kind of handcuffed, but willingly. It kind of
he used the word forced, but that was true.
Yeah. But I really got to tell you, if we ever did speak to more people, and we did that library thing last year, I would definitely recommend what we're doing in terms of putting together a good story. I think it's the greatest way, and I'm not sold. It's part of my thing now. It's part of who I am as a writer.
You mean the sort of organizing aspect?
I love the way we do it.
outlining
Yes,
aspect of it, yeah.
yes. I think writing impromptu. I think from by the seat of your pants, just beginning to write is fantastic. We should all do that because those ideas come. They do. But I do also believe that the way we do things is really it's exciting. Planning your action, looking at your scenes, watching the scenes unfold, and knowing it's all fluid. They can change. You can do whatever you want. We're the maestros. We're the masters of our written universe. So it's cool.
Well, I mean, we're talking to two people that have written way more novels than we have. So
well, I'm a
sure,
pantser, so you guys are.
But do you outline heavily, or do you just?
I'm like dot to dot. I call it like I have pinpoints of places that I want to go, but I'm not quite sure how exactly.
That's an outline. But that's an outline, right?
Yeah. Okay, kind of. Yeah.
Kind of. There's a structure.
I mean, it's structured at least. You're not just like hoping it's all going to work out.
No,
I mean, the thing never ends up the way you plan it. Is at least in our world.
Do you guys think of scenes when you're writing particular scenes?
I do.
My first book started as a scene. It actually started as a scene that I did for it was a 2-week writing intensive, and we had to write a scene. And it was like a scene with atmosphere, which is kind of my forte. Yeah. And so it was that scene, the scene in the swamp. And that being kind of the middle of the book, it was then that I kind of went and wrote the book around it. But I had it in my head, kind of who the characters were, what was going on, what the kind of basic conflict was. But beyond that, no. It was kind of I like to let things kind of unfold. However, because I write historical fiction, everything's heavy historical before the rest of it gets worked in there, I have to have so much research done ahead of time. So the research is the planning that drives the fiction. So in that way, I have to plan because I will not let my readers get distracted by inaccurate fiction.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. That's cool.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think the other thing that sort of informed the plan, the outline, quote unquote, or whatever, was the fact that it already existed. This is a screenplay, so it wasn't like we were working from nothing. And I think once we did that, this next book the book that's about to come out, we were sort of like, we should, not that we're going to write this as a screenplay first, but the idea of having a big document that had all the ideas in it and that we could refer to and that had a basic flow ended up being let's just do that again. It's sort of like the version of the screenplay.
So you wrote that for Somewhere in Crime? You kind of wrote
a
sheet out?
Yeah, we had a long, we have a massive document that's 60 pages long. But it's not, I mean, it's not like it's broken out in scenes, and there's a lot of ideas, and there's scenes half written, but it's like one document. We call it the kitchen sink document. That is basically an extended outline with scenes written, and whatever sort of makes sense is in that document. And it's a great thing because you can always go back to it and go, this is sort of like the kitchen sink. It's all in here, and we might have forgotten a few things along the way. There may be there may be some little ideas in here that can rescue us from certain. Yeah. I'm constantly going back to that document, going, oh my God, because it was a while ago. You just forget because you're especially when you're starting to hone it down into something that needs to be more whatever, like a book. You start to
I
remember
scrapbook
some of the things
in that way. Yeah, I
Kind
keep a
of, yeah.
scrapbook, and
Yeah.
it's all of the
Yeah.
things, all the research, and all of that, and kind of
Yeah.
names and like I want.
It's kind of like
Now, like I'll need a bar, and so
Yeah.
here's my description of the bar. Here's what I want in the bar. The bar, I haven't gotten
Yeah.
anywhere near writing the bar, but it's there because that's when
Yeah.
I was thinking about it. But if I was collaborating with somebody, that would be hugely helpful. Is to have,
Yeah.
I mean, a digital version of essentially the scrapbook I
Yeah.
carry around.
It's pretty.
Yeah, it's like
huge.
a vision, almost like a vision board. A lot of images for our characters and heavy, character bios. We want to know our characters. We want to, their lifeblood, their DNA almost. But Dave is extremely, and I agree with this, and I believe I compliment it, but he's extremely organized. That's his business. That's what he does. But it comes out in our work. He makes sure that we have everything structured and organized so that we have a plan and we have a vision. And
I also think part of that for me personally, actually this never occurred to me, but I think this is part of it, is that I also I'm so scared of my own memory or lack thereof. Like the fact that to do this helps so much, because it's like, oh, at least there's a document, there's a thing we can keep going back to, because I don't want to forget things. And life is crazy and we're busy and we're doing all these different things, and it's like, if it's not sort of somewhere in a place that is organized, I just feel I get paranoid that some cool idea or character idea is just going to be gone forever, and then I'll publish the book and go, oh no, we forgot the point.
That happens.
It does. It absolutely happens.
But the other thing that I think is maybe might be interesting to people is that Matt, just taking it back to Mackinac Island, I think the fact that Jim and I met up on the island as porters, we were young and crazy, and we both love that island and have so many memories there that it really makes writing, again, I'm making it sound like we have some we're only on our second one, so let's just be super clear here. I don't want to sort of start sounding like we're prolific yet, but that island is so rich, and it's got so much personality and so many nooks and crannies, and it's that's a world. I know that part of what you guys do and what happens in the world with good writing is the world building part of it, but that world is real. We know it, so we both know it at a level that's sort of we're similar age, and we were kind of came of age at a certain time on that island. It was a bit different, a little more rough around the edges. So I think having the world set and real helps a lot too, because you just kind of you can't stray too far out of what the island is.
Yeah, it's an island.
It's a real island. It actually exists. We're not a lot of it. We're not. I mean, we're makeup. It's fictional, but there's a lot of, we're drawing on the real. I was thinking about this earlier, Jim. Actually, our friends are the island. People are year-round island people. We've known them forever, and when you're writing a book and you know that the fire chief is going to read it, you're like, we better be on the ball. It's not Middle Earth or something.
Absolutely.
You're no, man, this is we're gonna get beat up if we don't
Margaret Dowd's coming for you, right?
Correct. Yeah, we don't want to we're thinking, we're always talking about that too. We're as if we better change the name of that place.
Yeah, I recognize some of the places, but not all.
Yeah, we disguise the ones that anything it's a little, But I mean, obviously one of the main places in the book, in both of the books actually, is the Arnold Line dock. The Arnold Line doesn't even exist anymore.
I know.
Our line, but we're still calling it. We're still holding on to the Arnold Line. That's just not a
long as you can. That's sad.
Yeah, exactly.
So for people who don't know, I especially clarify because you guys all know really well what a Dockporter is, and we've not actually told other people who don't know what a Dockporter is. I'm assuming, because I don't know, I've never been to Mackinac Island, because there's no cars. You're getting off the boat, and these are the porters who are getting your luggage off of the boat, the ferry that takes you in and taking it up to the hotel. Is that what you do?
Yeah.
Well done.
As a Dockporter, is that what you did?
Yeah.
Basically,
you ride the luggage in the basket of your bike. They all ride these Schwinn heavy-duty bicycles with giant baskets with tall handlebars, and then load up the suitcases and then
They're
ride it
amazing.
through the streets. And it's pretty cool because it's very, it's a lot of, it's just kind of visually interesting. It's hard to do. It's unique, and it's been going on forever. So there's a cool tradition that goes back forever. And there's this, when you come up as the first year as a dock porter, there's older guys that are there to teach you how to do it. And it's kind of like a skill, but it's also, a tip job. So you have to have some like social skills too. It's just a really cool, unique job. And we always felt like when we were doing the job back in the 80s, we felt like we were kings. And we were just like, we thought we were fighter pilots.
Yeah.
Well, I would have crashed. So
I
I would've
had
thought you
that
were
old,
awesome.
but I mean, it was so ridiculous. It's like, talk about a subculture. It's like a subculture. But we were
the
way
tourists
into it.
wait around to see them spill all the luggage. That's what we do. We just sit there and like, oh, that one's going over.
With
But I've
dump.
never-
Well, we try
I've
not to
never seen
do
them
that.
drop a bag.
It's always
Ever.
it's a big sin to
It's amazing.
dump luggage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool.
So
I'll send
it's
you
a cool-
pictures, Nola, this summer.
Yeah,
if,
I
I
wanna
get,
see it.
if I get a particularly good, a good stack of luggage,
There
I'll
you
send
go.
a picture to you. So
If you go to the
That's
Dockporter, or a Mackinac novel. Shit, I don't even know the name of our own Facebook group. That's probably not too good, but it's a pretty cool group and it has tons of pictures. And there's also a Mackinac Island Dockporter Association page on Facebook too that has. So the picture, you can get an idea just by flipping through the pictures of what it's all about. But it's been, it's a really cool tradition, and it's a sort of a nice blend of athleticism and social skills, and it's just a cool world that's how we met. That's how Jim and I know each other. And all of our friends, I should say all of them, but we both have like our network of friends that still exists, or from those summers that we worked on the island still exist. It's a strong bond. So it's very neat.
Yeah, I think that's another great thing about, Facebook. Social media can be a really groovy thing. And in that regard, having, your friendships, your connections, the way they are is fantastic. And that's
Jim, describe what a load, like just describe the bike, the luggage, and the task, but do it quickly.
Well, you have a
Make it funny.
heavy duty bike, a large utility basket.
director.
Yeah, and in order to build a load, you've got to form your bags in a V. That's going to start facing forward. And
One bag goes across the handlebars, and the other one goes in the
you
back.
see that? The V.
Yeah.
So here's the basket. And this
Give
hand,
me another book.
yeah, that's going to go that way.
Another
And
book, another hand. You're gonna.
you're going to have a V. And that's
And then
going to
imagine, if you will, you put the thing in here.
all your other bags. Yeah. So using that as your starting point, you're going to throw in a bungee. And back then they had
First, you got to
trained
load the bags up.
smaller bags. So you bungee smaller bags, and then you get larger bags and V them on top. Bungee more, again layer it, then V a couple more, and keep layering. Those days were filled with smaller bags. Train cases were very familiar. They don't exist anymore. Now you have a lot of duffels, a lot of soft shell pieces that don't make any load. I don't think they make loads any less rigorous or dangerous, but I think they're different than the loads we were used to, Dave. We had
The other thing that's interesting, the biggest change. Wow, we're really about to sound old, but whatever. I remember because when all of a sudden, I think it was during the 80s, early 90s, all of a sudden rolling bags became a thing. And that was like horrible for us. Like, what? Like suitcases with wheels was not good for business. And we were just like, oh shit. And then I remember saying to people, I don't know if you ever did this, Jim, but I used to tell people that rolling bags scared the horses.
So that's
funny.
That's not
Because they do make a sound,
Yeah.
Dave,
Dave, that's true.
Yeah, it could. They don't get scared by
So
the
then
cannon
they
that
went
goes
to
off
the
at the fort.
Dockporters, save them
Yeah,
from the
exactly.
horses.
So they hire a dock porter. I'm not saying that
That's
that
great.
everything battle happened. You should probably hire a porter.
That's
And then we
great.
would be like, oh, fine, here, and then it was like $1 a bag, and it's worth it. Plus, you get to like take a picture and
And
whatever. It was cool.
when we would dump, I used to tell people when we dump, it's a lot different than when a horse dumps. So that always worked.
Nice.
I actually never heard that line. That's pretty good. We should
So we
have the
got
next
you
version.
dumping,
The
horses
next
dumping,
edition.
the dog that
The lot-
dumped. Wait, this is a dumpy poopy
This is a
show.
poopy show.
Wait till you read Somewhere in Crime. We were just talking about that
Yeah,
yesterday.
you
There's
guys
a lot of because in the next book
Coming out.
it's the Dockporter only 10 years earlier, and he's 11, and his buddies are all 11 as well ish, and so at that age you're like it's a lot of there's a lot of fart jokes, man. I mean, I'm not going to say that that's what the book is about. There's many other things happening in the story as well, but that's part of it,
But also fart jokes.
A couple. It would be unrealistic not to have fart jokes if you had a character in there that was almost 12. Hey, look at that. That's the book. That's the proof. Hold that up. How cool is that? So we just got the proof like 3 or 4 days ago.
That is so cool. No, this is set on Mackinac Island during the filming of Somewhere in Time.
Yes,
correct?
we
So
should
this
probably
is-
talk about it a little bit.
Oh,
since
yeah,
that's,
tell us what this is about.
Sort of important. Nice. Just keep holding it up there, Jim. It's beautiful. The story is basically the same main character as the Dockporter, only it's 10 years earlier because the Dockporter takes place mostly in 1989, and the Somewhere in Crime takes place in 1979, which is the summer that they filmed Somewhere in Time, thus the title. Yeah. And get it? Somewhere in Time, Somewhere in Crime, Time. They're like they rhyme. That third one.
You are all about it.
Correct.
Well, we thought about a horror version of it, calling it Somewhere in Slime, but we decided
Somewhere in Slime. There is some slime in there, actually. So basically, it's the story of our hero Jack. He's the paper boy, though. In '79, he's the paper boy, which would be the job that you would have if you were, soon to be someday to be a. See the paper, the satchel, and he's got the little bowler hat on the back of his bike. Yeah. That's a little Somewhere in Time reference.
Somewhere in Time.
So anyway, he's a paper boy. It's the summer of Somewhere in Time. The movie people are showing up. Christopher Reeve, Jane Seymour, Christopher Plummer. The whole Hollywood thing is on the island, and the basic storyline is his parents are having some marital problems, and he feels, as a delusional kid would, because he's always heard this gossip or this like chatter that they always had this trip to Egypt that they talked about taking, but they never did it. And it just comes up in one of the arguments that he overhears. And he's like, if I could afford to buy them a trip to Egypt, a cruise to Egypt, somehow everything would be fine. At that same time, he hears about an unsolved murder on the island from 20 years earlier. And so he decides, like an 11-year-old fool would, that if he could just solve this crime, he could get the reward money and buy this trip for his parents. Meanwhile, his mom is working as a seamstress on the movie. So he's constantly interacting with the movie. She's always on the set. So he's always going to the set for various different reasons. And every time he interacts with the Hollywood scene, he ends up affecting a scene in the movie.
Yeah.
So
that sounds really cool.
So we kind of retrofitted scenes from the movie and saying that's actually why it turned out that way, is because Jack stumbled through that scene. And so you have these like 3 parallel storylines. Exactly. Like he's affecting the story. Like, for instance, this doesn't give much away, but like there's a scene when the Hollywood people are first showing up on the dock, and I was there in '79, so it's somewhat, it's obviously fictionalized, but there's some accuracy to it. But so the Hollywood people are getting off the ferry boat, and the whole island is there waiting for, movie stars. And he's kind of overhearing, he's just listening in on the whole thing. And 2 like middle-aged writer types get off, and they're arguing about a scene in the movie between each other about what the line should be. And he's just half listening. And they're like, no, it's too wordy. It's got to be shorter. And they're trying to like figure out the way it should be written and what the line should be. And he's like, and they're kind of, nerding out on this thing. And meanwhile, he sees this girl who's this cute girl who's part of the scene who he'd met earlier. And she kind of remembers him, and she goes, hey, is it you?
Is it you?
They had met earlier. Is it you? And he's like, what? He's like, what? He's like, you're the paper boy, right? Yeah, it is me, I guess, because she had met him once. And meanwhile, behind him, the 2 writers are like, that's it. That's perfect. Is it you? It should be that, like just stuff like that. Like he keeps interacting with the movie. So there's 3 storylines, which is there's a family drama aspect. There's there's a cold case story, which is kind of like Boy Detective, and then you have this, you know, making of Somewhere in Time happening. So there's a lot, you know, there's a lot going on, but it all kind of weaves together in a nice little coming
family drama, a little smidgen of horror, right?
Yep.
The family drama is what I think. It's wonderful, and that taste, that glimmer of just the taste of the supernatural, just enough to.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have a little bit in that. And that island's full of magical spirits, so we had to like tap into that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a blast. I mean, I'm saying that like objectively. It's like, you know, it's really fun. It's a fun. I hope people love it. We hope people love it, but I will say unequivocally that we definitely do. And I think people that know that movie will love it too, because it's got, I mean, it takes liberties. Obviously, it's all made up. It's fictional, but the idea that this little knucklehead could like affect the storyline of this movie that people love is funny. You know, it's just like, hopefully people will read it with the sense of like, oh God, that's, you know, there's so many elements to that movie that fan. And it was funny because as we're writing it, we're always thinking about, oh, you know, I mean, you can't write, obviously you can't worry too much because then you won't do anything, including writing a book. But the idea of, you know, I mean, you're as someone who writes historical fiction, I'm sure you know this. Like, people are way into this stuff, and you know, you're kind of like messing with people's world, and we're like, well, we are, so that's it. But it's very respectful, and there's nothing, you know, there's no crime element involved in the making of the movie. The movie is the movie. So yeah, I think people will dig it, and it definitely captures the island in '79. Because it was, you know, it was a different place. I mean, it's the same but different, you know, because it was '79. So yeah, that's how it connects.
I love this, and I mean, people are going to want to hear more about this. And I think once you guys launch and you kind of have the book is out there, I would love to have you guys back on the show and talk reactions, because I think that's going to be kind of the key thing with this. Is once that book is out and you have this book that is. It's so much fun, but at the same time, it's touching on a movie that is so well loved. I think you're going to have some great stories about what people actually tell you after they've read it. So I would love to have you guys back. And before we kind of wrap, because we do need to get going. One thing I know, we could talk to you guys for hours.
But no one's in the dark. She's going to be in the dark.
And I know the sun is setting on Salem.
That's your issue.
Darker
are coming.
Get a light. Just kidding. Go ahead.
It's like, it's getting dark.
That's nice, though. That's ooh, wow.
It's party time.
So cool.
That pretty.
Tell the truth. The pub's calling.
It's stunning. It is absolutely stunning. It's stunning. Well, you know, the bar, the teenager who's been on her own in a hotel room for a while, and I'm actually quite literally sliding off the backpack I'm sitting on right now. I keep having to adjust.
You got a lot of issues going on over there.
Problems are happening here.
Let's hear it. What do you got?
Hey, I'm sitting in adult diaper.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
Funny. And Dave's pooping. So.
Exactly.
I'm the only one not doing anything that you know
it's
of.
Dried up. Luckily, it's dried
Laura's
up.
even stuff on down low.
Bane at mine.
So when we have you guys back on, and I do want to do that, we'll play Fast Five with you guys. But this has been an absolute joy talking to y'all. Y'all are so much fun, and I love the partnership that you have.
Yeah,
and
I love that too.
I don't know that I could actually write with someone else, especially someone long distance. It always fascinates me when we have guests that write in tandem like that. Yeah. So I love the stories. I love the process, because that is truly fascinating. And so I hope that folks will check out the Dockporter and Somewhere in Crime when it releases. And it releases August 1st. Is that correct?
August 1st, like 6 days away. We're like,
yes. I'm going to take some pictures on the island. I'm going to try to get some pictures.
They ordered a huge order of them, so hopefully,
good.
You know, it's all like coming. Somewhere in Crime is available on Amazon pre-order right now. But you obviously can't pre-order paperbacks. People love the paperbacks. We sell as many paperbacks as we do on. But buy your book at the Island Bookstore. Obviously, they're so awesome. That's what we really
maybe we'll be on the island.
Great people, really.
Yeah,
awesome.
the Island Bookstore, absolutely. Yes,
big supporters. Absolutely.
Always buy
Cool.
local if you can. Support those local
Yeah,
bookstores that support your local
definitely.
authors. That's a huge thing. Well,
Right.
guys, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been truly a
Thanks,
joy. I've enjoyed
Laura.
getting to meet you guys and hang out with you. And I know Laura has always told me what fun you guys are.
Yeah, thanks
So
for
she
saying
did
that.
not
You have no
oversell
idea.
you. You were so much fun. And thank you so much
God
for
bless you.
putting up with our nonsense and
No, it's
shenanigans and
fantastic, man.
pooping
Very
dogs
cool.
and whatever
Yeah.
else.
That was
There's
my
two
favorite
kinds of
part.
dunks. Remember, 2 kinds of dunks.
That's
That's
right.
right.
We can dump luggage. We can dump
Yeah,
other
we can
things.
dump luggage or we can dump.
Island. Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
right.
Thanks, Nola. Thanks, Laura.
Thank
All
you
right,
guys
thanks for
so
having
much.
us.
You've been an absolute
See you
blast.
guys.
Peace.
Hope
And
to see you
All
again.
right.
Fabulous.
Now
This
what
has been a
happens?
copywritten podcast of Authors on the Air Global Radio
Yeah,
Network,
exactly.
and we will see you next time.